So, my stepfather, Martin, is the sort of man who calls himself a provider because he once paid for a Toby Carvery. You know the type, always slightly red in the face, owns far too many fleece gilets, and thinks emotional intelligence is a type of Oxford degree. Right. That Martin. Now, Martin has a son, Luke, from his first and favorite family, Tiam. You know, the proper one, before Mom lost the plot and married beneath her expectations. Me? I'm from the plot-losing chapter. The sequel no one asked for. Anyway, Luke, golden boy in full-time smug LinkedIn post in human form, decides he's getting engaged. Mazel tov. Massive deal. Whole house turns into some sort of Waitrose-themed war room. Doilies appear. Someone polishes the good kettle. There's talk of handwritten place cards, which I assume is code for people who went to grammar school only. Now here's where it gets charming. The second the word party is mentioned, Martin, bless his emotionally constipated little heart, turns to me and says, "Dead serious. Now, we do want to make sure you don't make it about you. I beg your pardon?" Like I was planning to streak across the buffet mid-toast, shouting, "Surprise! It's my bat mitzvah now." Apparently, I'm too intense to be around his side of the family. Like I'm some kind of human fire alarm. Loud, inconvenient, and likely to go off if someone breathes too close, which, to be fair, is not entirely untrue, but still rude to say out loud. The truth is, Martin treats me like an unclaimed parcel at a DPD depot. There, technically, but a massive inconvenience to everyone involved. And ever since Mum made the fatal error of marrying a man who says just playing devil's advocate, in actual conversations, I've been on probation, socially, emotionally, literally. He says I draw attention, like I'm some neon sign flashing, "Look, trauma." Like I chose to be a slightly sarcastic, emotionally unstable teenager in a house, where feelings are classed as a fireable offense. Sorry, I'm not a quiet little daisy who giggles politely and eats peas with the back of her fork. I was raised on emotional whiplash and kettle crisps. I express myself. So while Luke is down there, basking in his engagement glow and probably rehearsing his speech about how love is a journey, I'm being side-eyed like I'm the bloody drama llama, grazing at the family picnic. And it's not even like I've done anything yet. I've merely existed, with opinions, and a face that apparently reads, "I will ruin your hors d'oeuvres with a single sigh." So yeah, the stage is set. Engagement party of the year, champagne flutes and all. And me? I've been emotionally benched. Again. Like, I'm one big health and safety risk in a pretty dress. Honestly, if this was a fairy tale, I'd be Cinderella. But instead of glass slippers, I've got secondhand Converse and a warning to just stay out the way, yeah? Which, spoiler alert, I didn't.
Now let's talk about my reputation. Apparently, I'm the kind of girl you can't leave unsupervised near a buffet table or a microphone or feelings or other people's happiness. And look, I'll admit I once cried at a funeral. Not my funeral, obviously. Although with this family, it honestly wouldn't surprise me if someone still complained. I made that one about me too. No, this was an actual funeral for a human person who died. I shed a single tasteful tear during the eulogy. And next thing you know, Martin's whispering to Mom like, I'd thrown myself into the coffin and started singing Les Mis. He pulled me aside afterwards, full of righteous middle-aged indignation, and went, "You've got to stop being so theatrical." Right, sorry, next time someone dies, I'll bottle it up like the rest of you and develop chronic IBS at 40. But ever since that little incident, Martin's treated me like I'm one small emotional hiccup away from sobbing into a vol-au-vent and live-tweeting my breakdown. Apparently I'm too dramatic, which is rich coming from a man who once had a full-blown meltdown in the car park of B&Q because they were out of patio grout. Let's not forget the infamous Greg's incident. This man, a grown adult with a mortgage and a Sky subscription, actually welled up when he discovered they'd run out of steak bakes. Like eyes glistening, lower lip trembling. He looked like someone had told him Pointless was canceled. But me? Nah, I'm the problem. I'm the ticking emotional time bomb who will single-handedly bring shame to the house by being visible. Apparently, I'm not the right vibe for events involving Prosecco and Martin's side of the family. They're the sort of people who pronounce the T in Brie and once had an argument about which water filter was spiritually better. You can't just be around them. You have to curate your energy, like a sad little art exhibit called Not Too Much, Please. Martin reckons I bring too much energy to a room, which is weird, considering most of the time I'm just standing there with a glass of warm squash and a vague sense of abandonment. To them, my mere presence is somehow threatening. Like I'm going to jump out from behind the canapé station and yell, "Emotional trauma," an interpretive dance. I mean, I could. And to be fair, I have done worse. But still, bit harsh. The family grapevine, aka Aunt Moira and her extremely active WhatsApp fingers, has decided I'm emotionally unstable, which I find a bit rich coming from a woman who cried for 3 hours when her hairdresser retired, but I digress. So when Martin said, "Let's just keep things low drama this time," what he meant was, can you just not exist in a way that might make anyone feel uncomfortable? Translation: smile politely, speak only in weather updates, and try not to cry into the hummus. And look, I know I can be a lot. I'm aware. But a lot is still miles better than boring and cruel in a bow tie, which is basically Martin's entire family tree. But I digress. All I wanted was to show up, nibble on some overpriced cheese, and maybe make 1 or 2 withering observations about the bride-to-be's obsession with peonies. You know, normal things. Instead, I've been preemptively accused of being an emotional liability. Again, as if my mere existence is a threat to the stability of a party, with tiny quiches and too much Chardonnay. Which is why, dear listener, I wasn't entirely shocked when things escalated, because apparently, when you build a reputation for drama, people stop noticing when they're the ones creating it.
So, the day of the engagement party arrives, and the house smells like a posh florist threw up. There are those hideous gauzy ribbons on everything. The Prosecco's already sweating in the ice buckets, and Mum's doing that nervous laugh she reserves exclusively for when Martin's family are around, the one that sounds like she's trying to politely escape her own body. And then Martin pulls me aside, gives me the speech. You know the one. That lovely passive-aggressive brand of British fake niceness. All, why don't you just pop upstairs for a bit, love? Get some rest. Take a little breather, yeah? Just to, keep things chill. Right, because nothing says relaxation like being exiled to your own upper floors, like the ghost of mental instability past. But I'm tired. I'm tired of the whole bloody circus. So stupidly, and I think, fine, a nap, maybe some peace. Let them clink glasses and talk about pensions or whatever people in pastel knitwear do for fun. Reader, it was not a nap. 10 minutes later, I'm in the attic. Actually, locked in, no phone, because Martin had casually tidied my things earlier and apparently tidied my iPhone into the void. No shoes, because God forbid I bring footwear to my own emotional breakdown. And no hope of escape, unless I fancied leaping out a tiny Victorian skylight and swan diving into the neighbor's koi pond. I tried the handle. Did the polite jiggle. Nothing. Deadbolt. Solid. Like actual. Child snatching in a Netflix documentary locked. I even knocked. Once, twice, 3 times. No answer. Just the sound of a string quartet cover of Ed Sheeran, wafting up from downstairs like the final insult. So there I am, locked in the attic like some gothic spinster, aunt who once embarrassed the family at a village fete and must now be hidden from polite society. Just me, a dusty rocking horse, an old Hoover, and what I'm 60% sure was a cursed porcelain doll blinking at me from a box labeled Christmas, 1996. And down there, downstairs, I can hear it. Laughter, glasses clinking. Someone saying, "This rosé is divine," in a voice that makes me want to throw myself down the ladder. They're living their best middle-class fantasy while I'm stuck upstairs like a Dickens character with a Wi-Fi addiction. It was like an episode of Downton Abbey, except I wasn't the mysterious heir. I was the damp footman in the attic no one talks about. And do you know what the worst part was? They'd planned it. I could tell. There was a tray of crackers and a tiny bottle of water. Evian. So they thought they were being generous. Like they were chucking a snack into a lion enclosure and hoping I wouldn't start foaming at the mouth. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a breather. This wasn't a gentle, let's not have a scene. This was containment. Emotional quarantine. Martin had looked at me, decided I was a public relations risk, and put me in the loft like insulation. And I wish I could say I was surprised. I really do. But honestly, this tracks. This is the logical next step when you've been emotionally sidelined your whole life and someone finally just goes, "Yeah, actually, attic." So I sat there, on a box of old Christmas jumpers. No phone, no shoes, no dignity, just vibes. And the worst bit? It worked, because no one came looking for me. Not Mom, not anyone. I was upstairs missing and they all just carried on. Champagne flowed. Speeches were made. And I was up there like the family shame ghost. Honestly, I didn't know whether to cry or laugh, so I did both. And then I remembered. Martin forgot one very, very important thing. I may be dramatic, but I'm not stupid, and I wasn't going to stay locked up. Not quietly. So while they're downstairs toasting eternal love and giving smug little speeches about how she really completes him, I'm in the bloody attic. No shoes, no phone, no dignity. Just me and a draft that smelled faintly of mildew and childhood disappointment. And the audacity, the sheer, unapologetic audacity, was almost impressive. Martin, in all his beige glory, had decided that locking me in a dusty loft counted as keeping the peace. Mate, you didn't de-escalate a situation. You created a hostage. Scenario with vol au vents? I sat there, trying not to inhale too much insulation, or have an existential crisis in front of a rocking horse. You know the type, the haunted kind, the kind you find in the corner of a charity shop and instantly know it's witnessed a murder. I didn't even scream. Because let's be honest, even if I'd shrieked at full volume, it would have been absorbed by 2 feet of insulation in Martin's impenetrable sense of self-righteousness. Man's skull has the acoustics of a sealed conservatory. Nothing gets in, especially logic. And do you know what made it worse? I wasn't even surprised. That's the thing. The real emotional kicker. I was sat there freezing my emotionally unstable arse off, thinking, yeah, this tracks. This feels like something Martin would do. Like it's a completely normal Saturday to be stashed in an attic. So you don't ruin a party with your vibes. And the worst part? They were having a lovely time. I could hear them. Laughing. Toasting. Complimenting the bloody cheese board. Someone downstairs, I kid you not, said, "She's just so poised. I can't wait to call her family." Poised. Imagine. Meanwhile, I'm upstairs, halfway through a silent breakdown, clutching a cardigan I found in a box labeled Mum's Bits, and wondering whether my life has officially tipped over into Victorian melodrama. I kept picturing it, me, pale and trembling, slowly crawling down the ladder mid-speech like something out of Woman in Black, whispering, "Sorry to interrupt, but could I possibly have my phone back and maybe a crumb of basic human decency?" Because apparently, being visibly emotional near other humans now counts as behavioral terrorism. Martin didn't want a scene. Oh no, that would ruin the aesthetic. The matching Prosecco flutes, the coordinated napkins, the delicate illusion that this family functions like a Waitrose advert and not a live-action therapy session. So instead he locked me in the attic. Because heaven forbid someone ask, "Where's your stepdaughter?" And he has to reply, "Oh, she's upstairs," sobbing into asbestos and reflecting on her abandonment issues. No, much better to pretend I simply don't exist. Just erase me from the narrative like I'm a dodgy uncle, no. One invites to Christmas anymore. And here's the kicker. You'd think my mum, the woman who gave birth to me, who once wrote an angry letter to the school because they didn't laminate my gold star properly, might notice I was missing. Nope. She was too busy gushing over Martin's son's monogrammed engagement napkins. Yeah, they monogrammed their napkins. In gold. If that doesn't scream emotional repression and generational wealth, I don't know what does. So yes, I sat there, in that dusty attic, barefoot, locked up, emotionally unstable, and fully convinced I'd either snap and claw my way through the ceiling, or simply fade into the insulation like a ghost with attachment issues. And that's when I decided, if they thought I was dramatic before, they had no idea what was coming. Now, let's not pretend I handled being locked in the attic with grace and inner peace, like some sort of wellness guru in a linen tunic. No, I paced, like a woman in a Jane Austen novel, who's just found out her suitor has eloped with her cousin, only instead of a rose garden and poetic restraint, it was chipboard flooring and me muttering, "I'm fine. I'm totally fine," in the voice of someone who is absolutely not fine. There were tears. There was swearing. There was a brief but passionate consideration of writing. A poem about betrayal, using an eyeliner pencil in the back of an IKEA receipt I found in a drawer. And then, salvation. Because tucked behind a pile of dusty board, games and emotional neglect was an ancient baby monitor, left over from when my little sister used to sleep up, here before she graduated to her big girl room. And I got upgraded to Attic Goblin. And wouldn't you believe it? Still plugged in, still connected, still switched on. And suddenly, I had audio access to the party downstairs. I went from captive to covert operative in under 5 seconds. MI5 could literally never. At first, all I could hear was the clinking of glasses and the usual background murmur of forced social niceties, So how's the job? Still doing the yoga thing? We must do lunch, followed by mutual lying and quiet resentment. But then the gossip started. Oh, Martin, you absolute mug. You really thought locking me upstairs would keep things quiet? Because here's what you clearly forgot, Martin. I may be emotionally volatile. I may cry at adverts and eat my feelings in Aldi's car park. But I am also petty. Deeply. Systematically. Petty. And the second I realized I could hear everything downstairs, my whole nervous system lit up like a Poundland Christmas tree. Every snide comment, every backhanded compliment, every whispered little family drama. And let me tell you, it was juicy. Apparently, Cousin Beth's boyfriend didn't show up again. Aunt Sheila was on her 3rd glass of Prosecco and had started hinting that the engagement ring looked a bit Claire's accessories. And the best bit? Martin's precious son, Mr. Golden Child, Mr. Engagement Centerpiece, was absolutely fuming that his fiancée had insisted on inviting her uni mates, because one of them once flirted with him at a Freshers bar crawl and he didn't want to open that door again. Open that door again? Mate, you're 27 and your biggest personality trait is owning a NutriBullet. Relax. So there I was, barefoot, borderline feral, hidden in the loft like some deranged Miss Havisham, but with intel, with power, with the upper hand. And that's when the shift happened. That quiet, glorious moment when despair slides quietly into spite and you go, right, if I'm going down, I'm taking everyone's dignity with me. I sat there, cross-legged on an old sleeping bag, baby monitor in hand, plotting. Because I might not have my phone. I might not have shoes. But I've got one thing Martin clearly underestimated. A flair for drama and a complete lack of shame. Mistake, Martin. Massive mistake. So there I am, crouched like a Victorian chimney sweep with unresolved abandonment issues, gripping this baby monitor like it's the last shard of sanity I've got left. And what do I hear? Martin, holding court like he's father of the bloody year, telling everyone, with a straight face, no less, that I'm not feeling well and just fancied a bit of quiet time. Oh, did I? Did I, Martin? Did I look at your tacky buffet and watered-down Prosecco and think, you know what'd be better? Climbing into the rafters like some deranged bat in a cocktail dress? I must have missed the part where solitary attic, exile became the new self-care trend. Bit Gwyneth Paltrow for my taste, but okay. Also, let's address the obvious. Who chooses to miss a party on purpose when there's free Prosecco? Not even my worst depressive episode made me turn down a drink and a sausage roll. And just to really hammer home the betrayal, I'd told him. I was wearing heels. Strappy, painful, decorative little torture devices that serve absolutely no purpose other than to make my legs look marginally less like 2 Richmond. Sausages taped to a broomstick. I told him. He nodded. He smiled. He lied. And now I'm barefoot in the attic like some sort of unstable Enid Blyton reject. Splinters in my soul and actual wood in my feet. Oh, and while I'm being dramatic? Martin's downstairs telling the neighbors I'm just a bit tired. Tired? Yeah, mate. Tired of your mediocre parenting and your weird obsession with emotional repression. And the guests, bless their gullible little hearts, they just nod along like, oh yes, she's always been such a sensitive girl. No, Carol, I'm not sensitive. I'm trapped in an attic while your 3rd glass of Prosecco is making you mistake emotional abuse for quirky parenting. And the worst part? I could hear them laughing. All of them. Just joyfully unaware that their entertainment is built on the back of my accidental attic imprisonment. Honestly, it was giving Jane Eyre meets Wix. I had a sudden urge to start tapping out Morse code with my heel, just in case anyone, might clock that. I hadn't vanished because I was having a lie down, but because I'd been banished like a cursed family heirloom. But no, instead I just sat there, in silence, listening, because eavesdropping, I've discovered, is a form of self-care, and nothing soothes the soul quite like overhearing. A room full of passive-aggressive, middle-class relatives pretend. Everything's fine over a tray of prawn vol au vents. And let me tell you, I was storing every single word, because if I couldn't come downstairs in heels, I was going to come down swinging in vengeance. Now I could have stayed quiet. Let it slide. Let Martin have his big day, his golden boy's engagement, his beige buffet of bland personality and tuna pinwheels. But unfortunately for him, I was raised on EastEnders, petty revenge, and the deeply British art of keeping receipts. So I waited. I waited until the speeches, Because timing is everything. When you're planning a dramatic, passive-aggressive takedown disguised as performance art. And let me tell you, the second His Majesty the favorite son stood up, glass in hand, thanking everyone who made this day possible, I knew. It was time. Curtain up, baby monitor on, volume maxed, soul unhinged. I took a breath, dramatic, shaky, Oscar bait style, and then delivered the monologue of a lifetime. I call it Attic Girl Interrupted, a haunting tale of betrayal, splinters, and being locked away like the family secret I clearly am. Ladies and gentlemen, I began. Well, to be fair, it was more whiny echo from the loft. While you sip your Tesco Prosecco and toast true love, spare a thought for me, barefoot, imprisoned, and emotionally battered in the attic, next to a rocking horse that may or may not be possessed. I gave it pathos. I gave it grief. I gave it drama. The kind of drama Martin claims I'm always starting. Except this time I finished it. Honestly, BAFTA-worthy. I even added pauses for effect. The kind that scream, emotionally damaged but still witty. You know, the exact flavor of trauma this family pretends doesn't exist between. Breadstick refills. Downstairs, silence. Utter, beautiful, devastating silence. Well, apart from someone nervously coughing and dropping what sounded like a plate of vol au vent. Repeat canopy tower. You were collateral damage in the war. Martin? Oh, he looked livid. Apparently, public humiliation wasn't part of his middle-class fantasy. But that's the problem with emotionally repressing your problems. Martin, they don't go away. They just wait. In the attic, with a baby monitor. And his son, oh bless him, just stood there mid-toast, blinking like a malfunctioning printer. I imagine the speech didn't recover after that. Bit tricky to go back to thank you for the love and support. When your sister's gone full Hamlet in heels from the loft. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. Was it over the top? Yes, but so is throwing a party in the same house you've locked a family member in like a pound shop Jane Eyre. So, swings and roundabouts, really. Look, I might be emotionally unstable, occasionally dramatic, and once cried during a John Lewis Christmas advert, but at least I've never locked someone in an attic to keep the peace. So if speaking my truth through crackly baby monitor static makes me the villain, fine, I'll be the villain. But I'll be one with style, a sense of timing, an unmatched petty vengeance. Attic girl out. Oh, the carnage. 1 minute, it's all polite laughter and clinking glasses. The next, social Armageddon, served on bone china with a side of passive aggression. Apparently, my dramatic attic broadcast had the same effect as shouting, "Fire!" in a Weatherspoons on curry night. Martin's wife, my mother, bless her traumatized soul, nearly choked on a vol au vent mid-chew. Which, frankly, is poetic justice for pretending I was resting and not actually being held hostage above the linen cupboard. She kept doing that awful tight-lipped smile that says, "We'll discuss this later in the car, but just know I'm quietly livid." The bride-to-be, immediate tears. Mascara running, foundation cracking, the works, like she'd just realized. She was marrying into a bloodline of chaos and creaking attic doors. Which fair. And Martin? Oh, Martin. He stormed up the stairs like the ghost of angry. Middle-aged dad's past, redder than a beetroot in a sauna, huffing like someone had canceled his Sky Sports subscription and insulted his barbecue skills in the same breath. Meanwhile, I was thriving, reclined like a Victorian, heroine who's just taken to her fainting sofa. Except, mine was a moth-eaten suitcase that smelled faintly of damp and generational trauma. I was humming the Downton Abbey theme, obviously, because if I was going to be cast as the family embarrassment, I might as well lean in and give them aristocratic breakdown vibes. Lady Mary, but unhinged. When Martin finally burst in, all fists and fury and deodorant-soaked shirt rage, he didn't even speak at first. Just stared at me like I'd personally set fire to the party using nothing but my unresolved issues and a baby monitor. And you know what? I kind of had. But here's the thing, Martin. If you lock someone in an attic, lie to a room full of guests, and then serve dry sausage rolls like there's some kind of peace offering, you deserve what's coming. This wasn't an outburst. This was performance revenge. And frankly, I'd do it again. Louder. With props. And yes, I may have slightly traumatized the in-laws. Yes, the caterer packed up early and won. Aunt muttered something about attention-seeking. Nonsense on her way out the door. But no one chucked a vol au vent directly at my head. So by this family's standards, it was basically a peaceful protest. Chaos? Sure. Social ruin? Possibly. But let's not act like anyone was going to look back on this day and say, what a tasteful, well-organized event. Now they'll say, remember the engagement party where Martin's daughter did a full-blown emotional expose from the attic? Iconic. Besides, emotional stability is overrated. Unleashed petty vengeance with dramatic flair. That's branding, darling. So, I'm officially persona non grata in the family group chat. I've been removed from 2 barbecues, 1 christening, and I'm fairly certain my name is now spoken in hushed tones like, I'm Voldemort with boundary issues. Apparently, locking your stepdaughter in the attic is an unfortunate misunderstanding, but exposing it during your son's engagement speech is attention-seeking. Oh, the irony. Martin can literally turn a functioning attic into a panic room. And somehow I'm the one with the problem? Anyway, let's talk about the fallout, shall we? First, the texts started rolling in. Passive-aggressive masterpieces. Really, the sort of messages that begin with, not sure if you meant to upset everyone, and end with, just want what's best for the family. My personal favorite came from Aunt Linda, who said, maybe next time try journaling instead of whatever that was. Thanks, Linda. I'll jot that down in my ways to emotionally suppress. Myself for your comfort diary, right next to smile through it, and pretend the attic was a wellness retreat. Then came the silent treatment. No calls, no invites, not even a pity tag in the family Facebook album, which, I'll have you know, featured every single guest from that party except me. Even the bloody caterer got a group shot. And me? I was probably up in the background of someone's photo like a Victorian ghost girl, peering through the attic slats, cursed and barefoot. But do you know what? I'm not sorry. I'm not. Because for once, I didn't do the British thing. I didn't bottle it up. I didn't smile politely while being gaslit in a loft. I said something. I made noise. Sure, I did it over a baby monitor like a deranged nursery rhyme villain. But the principle stands. And yes, maybe I did briefly consider locking Martin in a crawl space in return. Not for revenge, just, symmetry. Poetic justice. Architectural balance. Instead, I've taken the high road, emotionally imploding in private, while doing dramatic sighs at kitchen counters like, I'm in an EastEnders Christmas special. And don't worry, I've been formally uninvited from the wedding. Apparently, guests who've caused public distress are not part of the final headcount. Which is fine. I didn't fancy watching 2 people commit to a life of beige anyway. So now, I'm sat here with a lukewarm cuppa, 1 blocked number, and a frankly iconic story about how I got banned from family events for telling the truth, which, let's be honest, is kind of a rite of passage in this country. Right up there with Marmite trauma and pretending everything's fine when it clearly isn't. Was it petty? Yes. Was it unhinged? Absolutely. Would I do it again with better acoustics and a mic check? In a heartbeat. So, I'm officially persona non grata in the family group chat. I've been removed from 2 barbecues, 1 christening, and I'm fairly certain my name is now spoken in hushed tones like, I'm Voldemort with boundary issues. Apparently, locking your stepdaughter in the attic is an unfortunate misunderstanding, but exposing it during your son's engagement speech is attention-seeking. Oh, the irony. Martin can literally turn a functioning attic into a panic room. And somehow I'm the one with the problem? Anyway, let's talk about the fallout, shall we? First, the texts started rolling in. Passive-aggressive masterpieces. Really, the sort of messages that begin with, not sure if you meant to upset everyone, and end with, just want what's best for the family. My personal favorite came from Aunt Linda, who said, maybe next time try journaling instead of whatever that was. Thanks, Linda. I'll jot that down in my ways to emotionally suppress. Myself for your comfort diary, right next to smile through it, and pretend the attic was a wellness retreat. Then came the silent treatment. No calls, no invites, not even a pity tag in the family Facebook album, which, I'll have you know, featured every single guest from that party except me. Even the bloody caterer got a group shot. And me? I was probably up in the background of someone's photo like a Victorian ghost girl, peering through the attic slats, cursed and barefoot. But do you know what? I'm not sorry. I'm not. Because for once, I didn't do the British thing. I didn't bottle it up. I didn't smile politely while being gaslit in a loft. I said something. I made noise. Sure, I did it over a baby monitor like a deranged nursery rhyme villain. But the principle stands. And yes, maybe I did briefly consider locking Martin in a crawl space in return. Not for revenge, just, symmetry. Poetic justice. Architectural balance. Instead, I've taken the high road, emotionally imploding in private, while doing dramatic sighs at kitchen counters like, I'm in an EastEnders Christmas special. And don't worry, I've been formally uninvited from the wedding. Apparently, guests who've caused public distress are not part of the final head count. Which is fine. I didn't fancy watching two people commit to a life of beige anyway. So now, I'm sat here with a lukewarm cuppa, one blocked number, and a frankly iconic story about how I got banned from family events for telling the truth, which, let's be honest, is kind of a rite of passage in this country. Right up there with Marmite trauma and pretending everything's fine when it clearly isn't. Was it petty? Yes. Was it unhinged? Absolutely. Would I do it again with better acoustics and a mic check? In a heartbeat. Martin, as dear, delusional Martin, still swears blind that he was protecting the family's image. Right, because nothing screams PR-friendly patriarch, like shoving your stepdaughter in an attic like it's 1842. And I've just coughed near a chimney. But sure, mate, you were preserving the family aesthetic. Like I'm some rogue doily that didn't match the table setting. And here's the twist. You'll love this. The engagement?
Cancelled.
Done. Dusted. Dead as your dignity. Apparently, nothing quite sours the romantic. Atmosphere like a surprise hostage. Monologue over canapé hour. Who knew? Turns out people don't enjoy sipping Prosecco, while the ceiling screams about abandonment. Trauma in a flat minor. The bride-to-be left in tears. Not even elegant ones. Full-on snot and mascara like a rejected Love Island contestant. And his son, the golden boy, gave Martin that look. You know the one. The "you've just made my engagement" party into a Channel 5 docudrama look, classic. Meanwhile, I'm thriving, which in my case means I've got a therapist, a ring light, and zero interest in group forgiveness exercises. Because if I'm going to be branded too dramatic, I might as well be loud about it. Full HD. Soft glam. Emotional damage in 60 FPS. Martin tried to spin the whole thing after the fact. Oh, she's always been sensitive. No, darling, I'm not sensitive, I'm observant. You kidnapped me with passive aggression and bad intentions wrapped in linen napkins. I responded with performance art. We are not the same. And look, closure is cute in theory. It's what you get at the end of rom-coms and overpriced yoga retreats. But in real life, closure is just the bit where you stop getting answers and start lighting scented candles to mask the smell of emotional rot. So no, I don't have closure. I have a story, a minor TikTok following, and an Amazon wishlist full of petty supplies. I've become that girl, the one who narrates her trauma with lighting presets and background music that slaps. And if that makes people uncomfortable, well, they should have been nicer. Or at the very least, not barricaded me in an attic like I was a cursed heirloom. Now I spend Sundays in therapy, Thursdays doing eyeliner like war paint, and every other day remembering that the same man who said, "It's best for everyone," also thought salmon mousse was a crowd pleaser. So no, I won't be silenced. I will be petty. I will be self-aware. And I will absolutely monetize this breakdown if it kills me. Because in the grand tradition of messy, British women everywhere, from Bridget Jones to Sharon from HR, if we're going to lose our minds, we're going to do it spectacularly.